For over 40 years, she was known as the Orchidist, a Jane Doe murdered on a remote Australian tropical island. Her identity and the killer's unsolved mysteries sealed by a unique tattoo. The case remained a cold case until a DNA breakthrough. This true crime documentary reveals the shocking truth of how police and genetic genealogy finally uncovered her name and her killer. In 1979, the body of a woman was discovered on Magnetic Island, Australia. Only clue, a stunning orchid tattoo on her arm. Despite a nationwide appeal, the case went unsolved, and the victim was buried as a Jane Doe. This crime documentary explores the decades-long murder mystery that haunted detectives. The breakthrough came from a police cold case review and DNA technology. The genetic evidence revealed a shocking truth. The victim was Celia Doughty, and the prime suspect was her own brother. This is the creepy and compelling true crime story of a criminal who evaded justice for a lifetime, and the science that finally delivered answers. This is the haunting story of how a single tattoo became the key to solving a murder that time almost forgot. A beautiful, reclusive woman is murdered in a tropical paradise. The only clue, a unique tattoo of an orchid. For 43 years, her identity and her killer remain a mystery, until a DNA breakthrough reveals a shocking truth hidden in plain sight. Magnetic Island, 1979. A place of sun-bleached beaches and hidden coves, a sanctuary for those looking to disappear into the heat and the light. But paradise was a dark underside. Here, secrets don't stay buried forever. They wash ashore with the tide, waiting for the world to notice. The body found in the sand of West Point Creek was a woman, but to the police who arrived on that grim December day, she was a ghost. No identification, no wallet, no personal effect, no missing persons report that matched her description. In life, she had been erased. In death, she was an enigma. She was known only by a single, stunning clue. The intricate, beautiful tattoo on her forearm. A brilliant pink Catalia orchid. For 43 years, this orchid was the only name she had. It was the solitary key to her identity and to the identity of her killer. This is the story of how a flower etched in ink on skin finally bloomed into a devastating truth. The date was December 13, 1979. A group of bushwalkers exploring a remote creek bed on the island's western shore made a horrific discovery. Partially concealed in the sand was the body of a woman. The scene was one of brutal violence. The initial police response was hampered by the location itself. This was rugged, isolated part of the island, accessible only by four-wheel drive vehicles or a long, hot walk. By the time detectives arrived, the tropical island sun had already begun its work, and any potential evidence had been scattered by the wind and tide. The autopsy would later confirm the cause of death: massive head trauma. The attack had been ferocious, personal, but the immediate mystery was far more basic than whodunit. It was who was she? The standard procedures began. Her fingerprints were taken, but they matched no one in any database. Her description was circulated to every police station in Australia. Approximately 5'5", with brown hair and a distinctive tattoo. The public was asked, "Did you know a woman with an orchid on her arm?" The media dubbed her the Orchidist. And yet, the phone never rang with the right name. It was as if she had materialized on that beach from nowhere, faced with a dead end. Investigators did the only thing they could. They preserved the evidence they had, most notably the photographs of that unique tattoo, and they filed the case away. The Orchidist was buried in Townsville Cemetery, a headstone, a heartbreaking monument to the unknown. It was marked only by the date of her death and a single stark word, unknown, and there she remained, a ghost in the official record for decades. Time has a way of blurring memories and a fading urgency. But for the cold case detectives of the Queensland police, a file is never truly closed. It merely waits for its moment. That moment arrived with a scientific revolution. In 2018, nearly 40 years after the Orchidist was buried, a forensic scientist made a critical decision. They would submit the Jane Doe's DNA for a new kind of testing, a long-shot gamble on a technology called forensic genetic genealogy. The concept was as simple as it was revolutionary. Instead of just comparing DNA to a database of known criminals, this technique allowed investigators to build a family tree from a stranger's DNA sample. They uploaded the code to a public genealogy website, looking for distant cousins, third relatives, anyone who shares a fraction of that genetic sequence. It is a digital excavation, sifting through thousands of names to find the common ancestor, and then building the family tree forward, branch by branch, generation by generation, until it leads to the one person who must be the source. It is meticulous, painstaking detective work. What happens not on the streets, but on a computer screen. Years, the tree of the Orchidist remained sparse. A frustrating puzzle with too many missing pieces. A second cousin here, a possible great aunt there, but in 2021, a breakthrough. A new match appeared on the database, a closer relative than any before. This was the branch investigators needed. They began constructing a new tree, and this time it held. The leaves and branches finally pointed to one name, to one family. The Orchidist had a name. Her name was Celia Doughty. She was a 32-year-old former nurse from Sydney. She was described as a free spirit, an independent woman who had drifted north to Magnetic Island, seeking a new life. A fresh start away from her past. She was a private, almost reclusive son, which explained the devastating silence that had followed her disappearance. The family had simply lost touch, assuming she was living her life elsewhere. The first and most profound mystery was finally solved, but the second and greater question remained: who killed Celia Doughty? Now armed with an identity, detectives could truly begin their work. They retraced Celia's last known steps, speaking to aging residents who might have known her. They pieced together her life on the island in the months leading up to her death, and a name emerged. A name that sent a chill through the entire investigation. Witnesses recalled that Celia had been seen socializing with a local pineapple farmer. His name was Bill Doughty. The shared surname was a coincidence that felt like a thunderclap. Bill Doughty was not just a person of interest, he was Celia's older brother. The family tree, built through genetic science, had led them directly to the suspect's doorstep. The implications were dark and twisted, but there was a formidable obstacle. Bill Doughty was not allowed to answer for his alleged crimes. He had died in 2002, nearly 2 decades earlier, taking his secrets with him. Or so it had seemed. The police now needed to be certain. They needed to be irrefutable. Scientific links between Bill Doughty and the crime scene. To do this, they would need to perform 2 exhumations. First, they petitioned to have Celia Doughty's body exhumed. Modern forensic science could now extract a pristine DNA profile from her remains, something impossible in 1979. Then, they located the grave of Bill Doughty. They needed a sample from him to compare. It was an unprecedented step in Australian legal history, a posthumous investigation of the most direct kind. In 2002, the results came back. The DNA evidence was conclusive. The material found on Celia's body was a match for Bill Doughty. After 43 years of silence, the case was officially closed. The Orchidist was Celia Doughty, and her killer was her own brother. There was no courtroom drama in this ending. No life sentence had been served. There is only the quiet, tragic resolution of a decade-old family secret, a private horror that spilled into public view. The justice here is not one of punishment, but of truth. Celia's original anonymous headstone was finally replaced. Her full name, Celia Doughty, was etched into the rock, a permanent correction to the historical record. After over 4 decades, she was known. This case is an echo of the darkest kind. It reminds us that the most terrifying mysteries are often hidden not in shadowy alleyways, but in the intimacy of family, behind closed doors and smiling photographs. It proves that time is not an ally to those who hide the truth, but a patient enemy. Technology may provide the key, but it is human perseverance that turns it. The detective who refused to forget the woman with the orchid tattoo ensured that Celia Doughty's story did not end in that creek bed. Her case stands as a warning to the guilty and a promise to the lost, that no matter how much time passes, the past is never truly past. It is always waiting for its moment to speak. Celia Doughty loved orchids. In the end, the symbol of her life became the key to uncovering the truth of her death. Fragile, beautifully bloomed that outlasted the violence that tried to erase her forever. This has been the story of Celia Doughty and the orchid that bore witness. If you have a case from the shadows of history you'd like us to cover, tell us in the comments below. Subscribe to Echoes of the Past for more stories where the past refuses to stay silent.